Hi, this is Christy Haig, and I'm here today to teach you a trick for how to get the cutout look, how to make it look like we've cut shapes out of our background paper so that we can see the layer behind it. This is a layout that I'm working on using a kit called Big Ideas from One Little Bird Designs, and I have some pictures and some shapes already on it. And I have these two shapes here that I've added, which are actually elements from the kit that I want to use the shape of. And I have this star here, which I created using the shape tool here in Photoshop Elements. And what I want to do is to use these shapes to make it look like I have cut these shapes out of this tan background so that I can see the layer underneath. And you'll see in my layers palette here, this is my background paper. And underneath it, hiding here, if I turn this layer off, you can see it, is this orange and yellow checked. So what I want to do is make it look like I'm cutting these shapes out of this tan paper so that I can see the orange and yellow checked paper underneath. But instead of actually cutting out of this, I'm going to use a trick called an inner shadow. So I'm going to click on one of these layers here. This is the shape that I want to make the cutout look using. And I am going to use a special inner shadow style that One Little Bird has created called Cutout Like Me. And it's actually similar to the inner shadows that's already in Photoshop Elements, but if you notice the inner shadows that are here, they are all very deep looking shadows, and I don't want to make it look like my tan paper is actually sitting that far off of my yellow paper underneath. And so the Cutout Like Me by One Little Bird Design has much more realistic inner shadows to use. You'll notice that there are 4 options. The first 2 have the shadow coming at a 120 degree, cutting this way. And the second 2 are at a 42 degree, heading down into the left. And I have shadows going down into the left on my layout, so I want to make sure that I use these ones. This one is a little deeper. It's going to make it look like the background is a little bit further back. This one is a little closer. So for this one, I'm going to use this shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and on this element, I'm going to apply this shadow. And you'll notice how it makes the shadow, instead of being behind this element, it makes the shadow right inside of the element, making it look like it's actually sitting underneath the tan background paper. So I'm going to do the same thing on all 3 of these. And then I'm going to take my layer that I want to appear behind my background, and I'm going to drag it so that it's in the layers palette right above one of my shapes. And using Control G or Command G for a Mac, I can clip it right to that shape, and you'll notice that it looks like it's sitting right behind the background layer. So now I'm just going to go Layer Duplicate to get a second background paper, and Layer Duplicate again to get a third of this yellow paper so that I can put one above each of my shapes. And I'm going to clip that one, and I'm going to drag this one here and clip that one. So you'll notice here's the first circle with the layer clipped, here's the second circle with the layer clipped, and here is the star with the layer clipped. And you can see on the layout that it makes it look like I have cut out of my tan background paper to see the layer underneath. Now, a couple of tips. First of all, you're going to want to duplicate your layer like that, like I did, because you want it to match up and look like it would actually be in the right spot. I can drag one of these around, but then if someone were to pay close attention, the lines wouldn't actually match up. With the paper that I've used, you don't notice it as much, but if you had something with thick stripes maybe, or diagonal stripes, they wouldn't line up unless you had the papers in exactly the same place. So the easiest way to do that is to simply center it on the layout and then duplicate that. Another tip is to make sure that your style effect here goes on the shape layer and not on the paper layer, because it's the shape that we want to make it look like it's cut out. And then you'll notice that I used elements from the kit to make shapes. You can draw your own shapes any way you want. Now, the main reason for doing it this way, and the main reason for not actually cutting out of this background paper, is that later on, if maybe with the elements or other pictures that I wanted to add, I decided I wanted this star in a different location, I can simply move it around without having to redo the whole background paper. And the way to do that, if I go to drag it, you'll see that I'm just dragging the paper layer. So the easiest way I've found to do that is to click on the shape layer in the layers palette and then click on one of these little squares around it, which sort of selects that, and then I can drag and move this star wherever I want on the layout. And that way I haven't actually cut out of the paper, so I don't have to go back and redo a cutout. I can move it wherever I want after the fact. So there you have it, a way to use Cutout Like Me by One Little Bird Designs for creating a cutout look on your layout.